Hi everyone, welcome back to Alice on the Giant Bookshelf. Today's video is the mid-year freakout tag. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name's Alice and I have way too many books, and today I'm going to be talking about the many books that I've read in the first half of 2023. When I did the quarter year book tag, that doesn't seem like very long ago because I did it very late, but I'm actually doing this one on time. I'm recording it near the beginning of July. I have checked all my stats before I started doing any July reading. They are definitely half a year's worth of reading. So I thought I'd talk a little tiny bit about stats first, even though that's not really part of the mid-year freakout tag. Let's just whiz quickly through some numbers, and if you don't like the numbers, you can skip to question 1 by following the link in the description down below. I have read this year so far, up to June the 30th, I have read 92 books, and that, according to Storygraph, equated to 27,801 pages. Of those books, that actually works out as 10 5-star reads. I haven't fixed that. I think I've been more generous this year with 5 stars. I am a notoriously stingy person for giving 5 stars to books, but some of these that were probably very slightly under 5 stars for me, I have given them the benefit of the doubt and given them 5 stars. 10 5-star books already this year. That's going to make the end of the year choosing of my top 10 very difficult, because I believe I only had 10 5-star books at the end of last year. So of those, it's looking fairly even between mystery, which I would expect to see in my top numbers, and literary fiction, which I think is probably about right, but definitely been largely influenced by me reading the entire long list of the Women's Prize for Fiction. So yeah, that was 24 mysteries and 24 literary fiction. The Storygraph does come up as 17 classics, but I didn't personally agree with all of the books that it considered to be classics. So let's move on to the mid-year freakout tag. I don't think I'm really having a freak out. My reading did slow down in June, but I think I'm still very much where I would want to be for reading, and it's been a good reading year. So let's answer the questions for the mid-year freakout tag. So the first question is your best book of the year so far. So this is a massive spoiler for probably my next video, which will be my top 10. It won't come as any surprise to anyone anyway, because I've been raving about it ever since I read it. Absolutely, definitely going to say Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver has been my top favourite best book of the year so far. I think it would take a lot to top this book. Such a clever book. I just absolutely loved the combination of like the structure and characters of David Copperfield by Charles Dickens, brought to a new setting in Appalachia, telling the story of Demon, who I just absolutely adored. I thought he was a fantastic character. Yeah, so this is my favourite of the year so far, and I think it will be hard to top this one. This time last year I had already read Cloud Cookie Land as my top favourite of the year, and it stayed top of the charts for the entire rest of the year. So we will see if the same fate is true of Demon. Question 2 is your best sequel of the year so far, and I didn't think I had actually read very many sequels. I mean, I do read obviously books in quite long series, but I did recently read a sequel that I really loved. It's actually book 2 of a trilogy, and I read it last month. It was Before They Are Hanged by Joe Abercrombie. This is the second book in the First Law trilogy by Abercrombie, and it is the sequel to The Blade itself. So it was a book I really enjoyed. It's probably one of my very favourite audiobooks of the year. Question number 3 is a new release you've not yet read but want to. So I've got 2 books, I think. The first one is from a series that I've been reading in audio for a long time, and it came out right at the beginning, I think, in January this year, and I still haven't listened to it, so must get to that. And that is The Last Remains by Ellie Griffiths. This is the final book in the Ruth Galloway series, which is a series that I've absolutely loved. I would definitely be making a reader's guide to that at some point in the future, because it's a great series of sort of crime fiction books, and I really can't imagine why I haven't listened to that yet, because I bought the audiobook as soon as it came out, I believe. Highly anticipating that one. I know it'll be a great listen when I do get to it. And the other one, this is a very new release, and I got this for my birthday, so it's not even been in a haul video yet, but this is This Beauty, The Ferryman by Justin Cronin, and I got this for my birthday from my husband, and it is a gorgeous copy with pink sprayed edges at the bottom, blue at the top, and yeah, this stunning cover. So really looking forward to The Ferryman. I loved The Passage by Justin Cronin, but somehow didn't ever go on to read the rest of that trilogy, but very much looking forward to this one, and that is probably one of the books I'm most anticipating at the moment since I got it last week. Question number 4 is the most anticipated release for the second half of the year. And I don't really normally have that much anticipating of new releases, but for me it's going to be a book that has been so hyped by my friends who have read it, by people here on BookTube who have read it, and I've resisted so far because I do want to wait for an actual copy rather than listen to it on audio where it's already available, and that is Chain Gang All Stars. This is by Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah. It sounds like a book I would really enjoy. Definitely anticipating that one, and I believe it's out anytime soon, I think in July, so looking forward to that one. And I think I'm going to put a hold on that at my library and hope that they get that in for me quite quickly, because I'm very excited about that one. Question number 5 is more of a disappointment question. So this is biggest disappointment. There have been disappointments. I wouldn't say any of the books I'm going to say as disappointments are bad books at all, but the book I was anticipating that I have read recently was Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, and I think this was pretty much a crushing disappointment, mainly because there were parts of this book where it did get really good, really gripping, and then I felt like there were bits in between the gripping bits where I was a bit bored. I'd heard so many good things about this, and I'd enjoyed the Shadow and Bone trilogy, and I enjoyed Dark Academia. The stuff that went wrong with this for me, I just thought that there was probably a little bit too much of it. It was just disappointing to me. I wrapped this up in my recent wrap up. Another book that I found disappointing because of how much I wanted to read it was Woman Eating by Claire Coda, and this was a book about a vampire who is trying not to drink human blood, and I thought it was an interesting take on the vampire storyline, and I also thought that it wasn't as disappointing as it could have been because it did end up with the ending that I wanted, but I felt like for a very short book it didn't quite do it for me the way I thought it would. So that was a little bit disappointing, but I would probably say Ninth House was more disappointing. Next question, number 6, is biggest surprise, and I'm going to go with a book I really enjoyed that I wasn't actually expecting to enjoy that much. This was for a tandem read along, and I'll link all the details in the description down below. I made 3 videos on this book already, I think, which are all going to be linked in the description as well, and that was Immune and the Journey into the Mysterious System That Keeps You Alive by Philip Detmer, the creator of the YouTube channel Kurzgesagt. And I was invited to participate in a read-along of this by Tandem Collective. I went into it with a little bit of trepidation because I knew this was going to be about a topic that could prove quite difficult for me, because I do have a weakened immune system and I didn't know what sort of feelings this book might raise, but I thought this book was brilliant. I also wondered if I might struggle with the science, but no, Detmer absolutely does describe these things to you in a nutshell. He does break things down and make it simpler, but you feel like you've had all of the science nonetheless. So I really, really enjoyed reading Immune. This book was a huge surprise for me. I didn't know much about it going into it at all, and I really, really appreciated this. I read this in January, and I still do sometimes think about what I learned from this book, and it's really sort of opened my eyes to wanting to read more non-fiction. So the next question is favourite new author, debut or new to you. I've got one for each of these because that is how I roll. Favourite new debut author definitely goes to Katie Lumsden for The Secrets of Heartwood Hall. I just had such an incredible time with this book. I did go to the book launch of this book. Katie kindly invited me, and Katie is Katie from the channel Books and Things, so that was an amazing experience in itself. And also, when you get to do something as exciting as that, you do get thoughts like, I really, really hope I like the book. But I loved the book. The book was brilliant. Katie, I think, is an incredibly good debut author, and I will certainly be reading whatever comes next. Highly, highly recommend The Secrets of Heartwood Hall as probably the best debut I've read this year. And my favourite new to me author, who is just new to me and has written loads of books that I do want to go out and get, it will come as no surprise, it's Barbara Kingsolver for Demon Copperhead. Couldn't have had a better introduction to a new to me author. I felt like the fact that there was the elements of David Copperfield in this gave it the advantage of the fact that I had liked that book as well by Dickens, but it also just showed me what an amazing author Barbara Kingsolver must be. I definitely want to get on to all of her books, and as soon as I can. So yeah, fantastic new to me author. Really, really pleased I read Demon for the Women's Prize plot along. Yeah, so two new to me authors who could easily potentially become favourite authors. I don't really like to declare favourite authors until I've read more than one, usually more than 2 or 3 books, but both of those have great potential to be favourite authors. Now, question 8 is newest fictional crush, and same as last year, I actually don't have one, I don't think. I'll leave that one and go on to newest favourite character. I have 3 new favourite characters. 2 of them are from a series I was already reading, and they've just like propelled themselves to the top, and that is Logan Ninefingers and Pharaoh in the book Before They Are Hanged, which I read last month. Absolutely new favourite characters. I liked both of these characters in book 1, but they really came to the foreground in book 2, and I can't wait to see what happens with both of these in book 3. They are just fantastic characters, and the way they sort of interacted with each other in this book just made them a brilliant double act as well. So them, but also of course Demon himself, just a wonderful, wonderfully drawn character who you could really, really believe was this real person, and so flawed, but you just wanted to look after him and wished that you could help him, and it was absolutely heartbreaking a lot reading and following him because you just loved him. I did. Thought he was absolutely fantastic character. So yeah, Demon Copperhead as well, whose real name is Damon, not Demon. A book that made me cry is question 10, and to be honest, you could pick from a massive, massive selection of books. I have cried at loads of books. I am a crier. I cry at books a lot, but 4 books spring to mind that have absolutely had me completely ugly crying, sobbing. I had my husband wondering what on earth is wrong with me and why this level of emotion is coming from just a book, as he would tell me. So one of them will come as no surprise, although no, it didn't surprise me, even though it was a reread. So one of them is Goodnight Mr. Tom, absolute tearjerker. Yeah, sad, sad, sad book. So yeah, but a lovely, heartwarming book at the same time. This broke me into a million pieces, even though I knew what was going to happen, and I spent some of the book thinking, oh, maybe that won't happen. Maybe that won't happen, even though I've read this book before, I've watched the film. It still came in and emotionally wrecked me. So yeah, that still has the power even on a second reading. I also have to give a mention to Getting Better by Michael Rosen. This was an audiobook that had me in tears. This was a different kind of emotion, I think. This was really like genuine sorrow at Michael Rosen's loss of his son Eddie, and just absolutely devastating. Yeah, I cried a lot at that book. I cried at several points in that book. A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness, devastating from start to finish. Absolutely devastating. Don't go into this one without copious amounts of tissues. It is very, very, very sad, and you can see the sadness coming from the very first page. So yeah, that had me sobbing too. And finally, I've saved for last on this question. I know I shouldn't have picked 4, but these are the books that absolutely had me in a blubbering heap, and none more so than this book. This book, twice I think in the course of the book, had me in absolute pieces, just absolute ugly sobbing. And that's Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. Well, I can't talk about it because it would be massive spoilers, but yes, there's 2 points in this book where I sobbed like a child, worse than a child, and my husband had to tell me to stop reading books that make me that sad. But yeah, it really, really did me in. So yeah, books that made you happy. Books can both make me happy and make me cry, and those are the best books. So I am going to say for this one, all of the books I've read this year have made me pretty happy. I love reading books, and yeah, I even get happy reading the sad ones. So yeah, but one I'm going to mention again and again, Demon. Cried at this, but also so happy for Demon in places. So yeah, this book made me very happy because it's just so accomplished and so brilliant, and I just want to like shout it from the rooftops. But luckily a lot of people are shouting this one from the rooftops. I am not alone on this one, like I might be a bit alone on Cloud Cookie Land from last year. But yes, Demon made me very, very happy. I don't think I've got it here in my pile, but another one I really wanted to mention was A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, because that made me happy. That's a great book, and I can't wait to get to the rest of Becky Chambers' series. Oh, Becky Chambers as another new to me author who I really, really enjoyed. I'm definitely going to be reading more from her as well. So, number 12 is a more difficult question. Favourite book to film adaptation you've seen this year? I've mentioned in many videos that I'm not great with adaptations. I don't generally love them. I always think that they've not lived up to the book, but I do have an answer to this, but it is a TV show. So, and I haven't watched the final episode yet, so it could be make or break on that, but I don't think I've seen enough adaptations this year to have really much to compete with. There will be a forthcoming video on this series, hopefully, and that is the Silo series that has recently come out. I believe it's on Apple TV, and it is an adaptation of the novel Wool by Hugh Howey. This was an anticipated series for me because I'd read Wool a long time ago. I read the second book, Shift, earlier this year. I recently bought the third book to read, but this series is based on book 1, Wool, and I think it's been really, really well done, is my short answer about that. Do look out for a book versus TV on Wool versus Silo. I'm looking forward to watching the last episode of that ASAP. So question 13 is your favourite video so far this year. My favourite video I've made this year, and this is a weird answer because I don't really make many vlogs, but my favourite video I've made this year is my vlog of the Women's Prize Live, just because it was such a happy day, and I know that I can look back on that video. I can see my excitement both on the day and afterwards talking about it, and it's lovely to have that as like a video memory of just a great day out, just an absolute highlight this year. If I had to name any others, I really enjoyed making the Best Bookshops of Bath, just because again it was linked to a lovely trip. It was like a video diary of my trip with some great scenery and great bookshops, so loved making that as well. The video I'm probably most proud of in terms of time and effort that has been put into it was probably my Reader's Guide to Tommy and Tuppence. It hasn't been anywhere near as popular as my Reader's Guides to Agatha Christie's other characters, or my Reader's Guide to Sherlock Holmes or Jack Reacher, but I wouldn't expect it to be. Tommy and Tuppence are a lot more obscure than the other characters that I have made a video on, particularly in terms of they're probably Christie's least well-known book series. But yeah, I like that video even if it wasn't a very much watched video. Question 14 is most beautiful book bought or received this year. I'm going to say received, definitely between my brand new one that I just showed, The Ferryman by Justin Cronin. This is a signed copy as well. Birthday present from my husband. So yeah, I think this is a gorgeous book to have received. Very thrilled with that one. I would also have to say, in terms of received, this gorgeous sprayed edge copy of Demon Copperhead is an absolute favourite, and that was very kindly bought for me by my mum, who rushed out and got us copies when we realised we didn't particularly like the cover on the paperback and loved this hardback copy. So question 15 is a bit of an unfair question. It's what books do you need to read by the end of the year? All of the books. So you all know, if you've been here for more than one video, that I have far too many books. I have a giant bookshelf of still around 165 books or so that I haven't read. So I would like to read as many as possible of those. That's always my answer to this. But I did look at some books that I definitely need to read, which were the books I said I would read in my 23 for 23 videos. Now, I optimistically made 2 videos of 23 for 23. I made a video of 23 for 23 crime fiction books, and I also made 23 classics for the year 2023 video as well. So of course I am way behind on both of those, but I thought we would check in because these are the books I need to priority read by the end of the year. We'll just look at them in terms of stats, or we'll be here all week. And I would have to say that out of 23 of the crime list, I've read 5, not bad, but not good. I have DNF 2, very bad, but at least I've attempted them, and I'm halfway through 3 more. So I'm going to say that's 10 that I've at least attempted or started, and that means I've got 13 more books to read from the 23 for 23 crime books. The classics, I am ashamed to say I've done even worse on the classics. I have read 8. And I do have 1 book that I was supposed to read in January, which is kind of on pause. And you're going to say I should DNF it. But I attempted in January to read To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. And I've heard that in part 2 it really kicks off. But I haven't managed to slog through part 1 yet. I just couldn't seem to get my brain into it in January. So I paused it. I will go back to it. I'm very determined, so that one is still kind of on the go, and I've read 8 others. So I've got 15 left to read in the second half of the year. I need to start looking at what they are and making sure that I'm prioritising reading them. That was the last question, bit of a long-winded answer, but yeah, silly question. Of course I need to read loads of books by the end of the year. Do let me know your answers in the comments to any of these questions that take your fancy. I'd love to hear from you what have been your best books of the year so far. If you like, also tell me your biggest disappointments, your biggest surprises. I love to hear about surprising books, and do let me know if any books have made you cry like me. Please do give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and please do consider subscribing if you haven't already. I will hope very much to see you all again soon for another video all about books here on Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. Bye for now.